I'm really excited about the opportunity to work with you guys this semester. One of the hallmarks of my approach to teaching is ensuring that you're learning. And the only way that we can do that is to actually know that there's been some form of transformational process going on. From my perspective, learning isn't about getting you to memorize a bunch of information and then give it back to me in an exam or in an assignment. And then I can say, well, okay, at that particular period of time, you clearly knew what that information was. But would you know about it in 2 years' time? And that's my concern. My concern is that every student that I work with has developed a capacity for self-negotiated action. That is, something that they actually think is important, that they would like to achieve in their life, and they understand where to start in that process to move forward. To be able to approach my work in this way, I need to be able to ensure that you're engaged in particular learning activities that can give you an opportunity, give you a chance to actually broach that transformational learning process. It might not work for you all, but I'm hoping it works for the majority. And from my perspective, it's something that I've been doing now for 13, 14 years. I'm very passionate about it. You'll find that through the nature of our interactions. I'm very passionate about seeing what might actually be possible. To give you a quick bit of background, 2006, 2007, I developed this concept of the reasonable adventurer. I didn't develop it, I actually took it from Princeton University where it had been developed in the 50s and 60s. But I applied it to enterprise education. I applied it to the development of my students' thinking and their ability to act and behave in certain ways. I'll talk to you more about the reasonable adventurer at another time. But what I will say is that a reasonable adventurer is a graduate capable of creating their own opportunities for satisfaction. So is that you? Would you like to be a graduate capable of creating your own opportunities for satisfaction? Because that's what I'm all about. Regardless of what the subject's called, regardless of how we interact, my aim is to help you along that path to becoming a graduate capable of creating your own opportunities for satisfaction. And the only way we can do this, as I said, is to have this transformational learning process that you have to give yourself to. You need to trust me, I'm going to trust you. If you look at how the unit has been structured, there's a lot of trust in this unit, a lot of trust, okay? And hopefully that will become evident to you as you become engaged in the process. But I'm interested in what you feel. I'm interested in what you discover about you, about you. I'm not worried about theory A and theory B. There's plenty of time for that. But in a lot of ways, theory A and theory B are just a means to get you to go on a journey during this semester, a journey that will enable us to understand the extent to which you have been able to understand something new about you. So, I want to share with you a quick little video that I made quite some time ago, but I want to share it with you to give you a bit of an insight, I suppose, into what I'm talking about here about a transformational learning experience. Okay, this is based on a book by Tobin Hart called From Information to Transformation. So let's just take a couple of minutes and just sort of pan our way through these few slides, and then we'll come back and have a think in a second. Hart makes the claim that information is the currency in education. The problem with that is that we don't move down or into the information, we move on from the information. Our challenge is to actually move down and in through that information so that we can actually get this depth of understanding. For any given piece of information, we want our students to be able to drill down into that, to be able to go on a journey. We want the information to become knowledge by getting students to understand its patterns. We don't want them merely to acquire the information, but we want them to start to master an understanding of it.
We want our students to take this information, to develop knowledge of it, and become intelligent about it. Rather than accepting the answers, we want them to start to challenge the answers. Next, we want our students to develop some intimacy, some empathy for the concepts that we're working with. We want them to sort of develop a heartfelt understanding of these ideas. We want our students to be able to deal with the ambiguity around these ideas. We want them to engage in sort of never-ending dialect around these ideas. Ultimately, we want our students to be able to gather the necessary facts of life, but we want them also to be able to transcend and transform them. We want them to have this ability to develop this mind science. Fascinating stuff.
Okay, so there's a journey in front of us all, yeah? It's something that I'm doing every day, right? Trying to resist that temptation to allow myself to, just move on from one piece of information to the next. Stop. Just take the time to come inside it. See if you can actually make sense. It's not easy. It's never been easy. But the reality is if you can't understand the patterns of that knowledge that you're actually interacting with, the context of how that plays through in society, if you can't develop sufficient intelligence to be able to use this, yeah, if you're not able to develop the wisdom, that is the ability to apply the knowledge that you're understanding, then what's the point of it, yeah? So you'll see in this unit that there's a large percentage of marks, 60% of the marks in this unit come down to you telling me about you. You telling me about you. Now there's a rubric for each of the 6 personal learning statements that you're going to do across the semester. And it's very, very important that you actually take the time to really understand. And if you're not sure, come and have a chat to me about what I'm actually asking you to do. I'm quite happy for everybody to get 100% on this task. In fact, if everybody did the work to that standard, that would mean that you've been fully engaged in the unit the whole way through, and I would be wrapped. So it's there for you all. The rubric is laid down. The rubric is a ladder. How far you choose to climb up that ladder is entirely up to you. Okay? You can see the first 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, they relate to failing. 1, level 1, you didn't actually make any effort to do it. 2, there wasn't any real reflection that was actually put into this thing. It was highly descriptive. 3, there was only vague evidence that you've actually even thought about this process. Okay? And you can see once we get to level 4, which is a pass, now we're actually starting to see some solid reflection of new learning and reflection. Okay? Level 5, so now we're getting into the credit space, your thoughts, beliefs, self-projection of who you are relative to these ideas, and your sensitivity towards others is also coming through in your reflections. To get to level 6, you need to have done that level of self-projection and sensitivity to others and moved on to think about how these ideas apply to your life, your daily life, your professional life, your student life. I don't really mind. You've all got different lives. But how does that play through in your lives? And some evidence that you're actually challenging your existing mental models, the existing way that you think. And then lastly, if you want to get up to that top level, right, to that higher distinction, then it's those things that we want at the credit level, your thoughts, your beliefs, your self-projection, thinking about others, your application to your existing life, right, and challenging your mental models, and evidence of how you learned. How did this happen? How did you come to think about your thinking in such a way? What learning do you think actually has really occurred vis-a-vis who you were before we started that particular little module? And lastly, what has altered? What now means that journey that you're going to take towards creating your own opportunities for satisfaction or engaging in that self-negotiated journey. What action, what behaviours, knowledge and thinking, feeling, what has changed, do you think? Okay. Now, of course, you can try and make this all up, and some of you may be very good at that. That's over to you. I can't be responsible for you guys doing that. What I will say, though, is it is very hard to go through those steps and make it up, because I'm actually asking you to tell me something about you, right? It's much easier just to actually take on board the experience that I've offered you. And in the first instance, it's just you thinking about who are entrepreneurs in society. What do you think they do? Does that relate to what you want to do in society? Okay? You can, across the class, I would expect there would be a lot of differences in opinion. Okay? This is a really important point. I'm not making any judgments about you in terms of the statements you make. Only the process that you use to make the statements. Now, this is very important. Don't fall into the trap of thinking, what does Colin want to hear? I've already told you what I want to hear. But what you actually say to tell me that will be different for each and every one of you. You've already lived different lives up until this point. Okay? And so as you come through, I would expect that there would be these differences. So, over to you. Enjoy. Do not rush this part of the exercise. That would be my advice to you. Do not rush it. Take your time. Take your time to look at the rubric, sit back, reflect on the questions that you're being asked relative to the experiences that you're having in the unit and the materials that are being offered to you, and take your time to do it. It's worth 60 marks. Yes, each one might only be worth 10, but across the semester, this is where you're going to do well in the unit if you're going to do well. Okay? Good luck. And as always, if there are any areas where you're unsure or you'd like to talk to me about it, then just do that. Drop me an email, ring me up. I don't mind. Always enjoy talking to students about their learning. Cheers.